Hey guys, what's happening? How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's okay today. Welcome back, guys. Well, today's show 232. We're getting a little closer. Oh, sorry, 1 second. We're getting a little closer to the holidays, at least in the United States. Thanksgiving is around the corner. Ready? I hope you guys are ready for the scoffing marathon. That's what I usually call Thanksgiving here when it's Canadian Thanksgiving. I'm sure it's the same for you guys. Let me put the microphone a little closer to my face so you can hear me a little bit better. How's the sound on your side, guys? Everything okay? Hope so. All right, so we have a lot to talk about today. First of all, thank you for joining me. I like the fact that you guys check in with me at least once a week. It's great to have a check-in with you all, make sure everybody's okay, nobody's fallen off the addicted to gear bandwagon. You know, that the addiction is in full force when it comes to guitars and gear. So this is why I like to check in at least once a week on Sunday mornings and make it a regular thing. I always look forward to it. If you guys are new, fantastic. If there's any questions that you guys have, this is the time to talk about it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be only gear related. It could be related to music in general, but we kind of keep it along, the lines of music related topics. We often go off topic a little bit, but we eventually come back. No harm done. So if you guys have anything you want to talk about that is gear related, it's an open forum. You guys know the drill. If you are not already subscribed to the channel, you have to subscribe to be able to chat. Otherwise, the system will block you out. It's very easy. Just hit the subscribe button, and within a minute, you'll be able to jump in on the chat, which we, of course, highly recommend you guys do. We always encourage chat from both sides. So please subscribe. And of course, if you have anything new on your agenda, your musical palette this week, something that you've looked at, are interested in getting, have purchased, or are thinking about purchasing, with Black Friday just around the corner, it makes sense that probably many of you are eyeballing a few things. It's a great time to share those those little items you're looking at and see if you can get some feedback before dropping your hard-earned cash. That's what the Addicted to Gear channel is all about. We want to try and give you as much information about gear so you make the right buying decisions and you don't regret any of them. So I'm going to start by saying hi to everybody. And you guys, if you're new and you want to ask me a question directly, please put a question mark in front of your question so that I know that it's directed to me, because sometimes I miss it. The comments do go by rather quickly. So let's say good morning to the guys, and just eventually more people will trickle in, I'm sure. People are probably enjoying a sleepy Sunday morning, and sometimes it is hard to get out of bed. Maybe some of you are watching the show from your bed, which is fine. But I hope many of you at least have a guitar in your hands, something that you can strum from time to time. It makes it better. This is what I'm holding today, my Epiphone. This is an SG Epiphone version. We'll talk about it in a little bit. P90 pickups on this one. And yeah, we'll do the rundown. Excuse me. I've got to take a sip of water before I start. The heating kicked in because it's getting cold. So it's starting to get dry. Excuse me, guys. I took a little walk this morning and it was quite cold. So good morning, Ken. Hey, J. Paul. J. Paul's in New York. Says happy Sunday to everybody. Paul's here. He says 4 hours sleep, but Paul is, did you get 4 hours sleep the good way or the bad way, because you can get 4 hours sleep because you're having a good time, partying, rocking out, or otherwise, or 4 hours sleep because of something else. So hopefully you did it the right way. Although you're working on fumes, Paul, it's nice to have you here. I appreciate it. Jack is here as well. Jack says he can't wait to sit down and talk with all of us. Well, we're here, guys. Let's do it. Ed B. Metal, good morning. Tony and everyone in chat, good morning to you, Ed. Ken is... another Ken is here. Says, hi, Ed. And Ed says he can't believe it's almost the end of 2024 already. I know, man. It's just flying by, isn't it? It's crazy, man. You blink and a month goes by. Pretty nuts. When you get into the December month, for me anyways, it's rock and roll. All of December is rock and roll. There's so many things to do. There's birthdays. My wife's birthday is coming up. We're all doing the Christmas get-together things, the family get-together, the shopping. It's a stress-filled month, in my opinion. I try and minimize the stress as much as I can. I'm not one that likes to go ballistic with all of the Christmas hoopla. I try and keep it under control, but sometimes it's a little challenging with the rest of the family. You get drawn into the hype, you get drawn into the excitement, and before you know it, you're in full tilt party holiday mode. And along with that comes the bills afterwards as well. So try and keep it under control. It's me, Don P. Good morning. And Ed says this week will be great for buying gear, I guess, with all the Black Friday sales. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. I'm not, as a Canadian, on the Canadian side of things, we don't celebrate the holidays at the same time as you guys do. Some of you guys, you're not all from the States, but Thanksgiving doesn't fall on the same day typically as you guys celebrate it. So, but I do like to piggyback on all of the Black Friday hoopla as well. I take advantage, as I'm sure everybody does. And of course, Black Friday, it's really a month-long thing, right? We tend to feel like, oh, it's just Black Friday. It used to be a one-day event, but not anymore. Now it's like all month long, So don't worry about missing any deals. There'll be plenty. And to be honest, some of the deals are not that great. If you can save a 15%, off the top or something like that, that's typically what you see. But if any of you did see any better deals, let us know, especially on gear. I always got my ears open for any kind of deals where I can save some dough. All right, so let's say hi to the rest of the guys here. So Farid is here, NFM, good morning. Wayne McConnell, good morning. SB, just trying to run through the questions at the same time. Searching for Tone, Vinny's World, Time Surfing Alien. All right, pretty full house. Jean-Pierre is here. Jean-Pierre says, the late, great Tony F. I hope I'm not the late, great, at least not now. Maybe a few minutes late, but not late as in deceased. At least not yet. Vox says he sees P90 goodness. You do. You have good eyes, Vox. We'll talk about those in a little bit. Vinny says, looks like you're in all winter gear. What's the weather like over there? It's not that warm, Vinny. It's this morning was just above 0. But it on my phone it says it feels like -4. So not really terrible yet. But when the wind hits you, you do feel it. So yeah, I got my winter gear. This is a nice fleece-lined shirt, sweater. Keeps me nice and warm. I'm going to be wearing this a lot this winter. I don't like the cold, man. I just don't. I say that every year. I never learn. So SB says, I'm ready for a holiday shopping. I have $450 to waste, probably going for a few pedals. Well, $450 on pedals will get you a long way. Depends on what kind of brands of pedals you're looking at. You can go the boutique route, which in that case, you might only end up with two. They tend to be like at least $200 these days once you factor in taxes. But if you go the budget route, and you can get some very good pedals and not have to spend that much money, with 450 bucks, you can get a whole pedal board worth of pedals with some cash left over for little cables, probably too. So we can talk about that. I can give you a couple of suggestions. Now, guys, before we get too deep in, I want to remind you guys to please, if you can, give us a thumbs up. That always helps the channel. It's always appreciated if we can see some positive vibes with the thumbs up. You can definitely help the channel by subscribing. And if you want, and it's not required, you can do a super chat, and that also helps the channel and keeps things rolling. So SB, what are you looking for in terms of pedals with your $450 budget? And why $450 specifically? You set aside a budget for yourself? Is there a reason why you ended up with the number 450? Or did you just sell something and you ended up recuperating exactly $450? Seems like a pretty specific number. Gene says, great pedal discussion by JHS regarding a John Cordy vid, asking if we are getting ripped off on pedals. That is something that I often ask myself, especially when you're looking at boutique pedals. One thing I want to say, and it's often forgotten when it comes to pedals, right? I mean, if you calculate the actual components you're getting, the actual materials you're getting, a pedal is not that expensive to make. You can typically make a pedal, with all of the components in terms of what you need to put together for like probably, often under 10 bucks, depending on how fancy you want to get with it. However, there is a lot of R&D time. And I say that with a grain of salt. R&D in the sense, if it's a pedal that is not a copy or a rehash of an existing design, which in most cases the pedals are. They're basically rehashed or reworked circuits. So they might take, for example, the well-known Tube Screamer circuit, which has been beaten to death, I think. There's 6,000 versions of this pedal already out there, but somebody always comes up with a new version. So, if you're just taking that circuit and tweaking it a little bit, you're not really doing that much R&D with it, right? But it's easy to call that a boutique pedal if it's not mass produced and charge people, 200 bucks for it. You can build your own pedals, and I've done it before. I really like doing that, and you could come out with some really great quality stuff. And it's a learning experience, so I highly recommend it. I've spoken about it before. I don't know if you guys were around when we had that discussion, but there are great websites online where you can actually buy pedal kits and build your own pedal kits from a kit, right? So even if you don't have crazy, electronic skills, you can still put together a kit. It's not that complicated. And if I can do it, you can do it. One of the kits that I put together that I talk about and rave about a lot is this pedal, which doesn't have any description on it, but I've shown it before. This pedal here, This is a hand-built pedal that I put together, and I purchased this kit. This is called the Dark Side of the Moon fuzz pedal. One of the few fuzz pedals that I own. I'm not a huge fuzz pedal guy, but I wanted to experiment with this one. And so if you search it online, you can get this by searching DSOTM fuzz, Dark Side of the Moon fuzz. The kit is about $70, okay? It's a little expensive for what you're getting in terms of parts, but I mean, it's all about the instructions and how to put it together. So basically, what you do is you buy this kit and you have all of the instructions on how to put it together. And the reason why I bought this one specifically, it's sort of a Screddy. If you guys know the brand Screddy pedals, they're pretty expensive pedals. It's kind of not a rip-off of that pedal, but it's kind of along those lines. It includes all the parts that you need to build this one. It's a fuzz, and basically it'll give you tones that are pre-Wish You Were Here Gilmore tones, all the way up to Hendrix tones. If you want to have that Hendrix sustain with the guitar volume and everything, it's quite a versatile pedal. And for those of you that know electronics, it does come with the BC109C the high gain transistor, as well as the 125B enclosure, which is this box, which looks very familiar. You see the same type of box on Wampler pedals and a bunch of other pedals. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's got like sparkles in it, which I think is pretty cool. Anyway, if you're interested in trying it out, I can give you the link to the website, and they have a host of pedals there. You can actually, just experiment and find what you like. Here, I'm gonna put it in the chat for you guys. There it is. In case you want to look here, we'll even look at it together very quickly. I don't know if you can see it here, but this is it. This is a blow up of what you're gonna get in terms of the board. This is what the board looks unpopulated. You can see where everything goes. Everything's clearly marked. This is what the board will look like once you have all the components in there. Heck, you can even just take a screen capture of this and figure out what's going in and build your own. If you really want to start from scratch, you can do that, but I wouldn't. Little bit too much work involved there. But you have the build documents, FAQs, return policy. So if you go to the build document page here, you have the build guide that you can download, and then they have a whole bunch of other kits that you can buy here, a ton of them. So here, let me just go to pedal kits, and I'll just show you this. So if you look at all the pedal kits that you have here, they have everything from amp simulations. So if you want to kind of build yourself a simulation of an amp, you have everything here from Tweed amplifiers. You can build yourself a Black Dog pedal kit, 69 Stone Drive, Cranky Charles, Diamond Drive, Super Lead, all kinds of stuff. It's quite fun, actually. So if you just start looking through the kits, then you have distortion, equalizer, fuzz kits. They don't have a tone bender, I don't think. Let me see here. They might have something that sounds like a tone bender, but I didn't go through them all, to be honest. But ton of fun. If you guys like building pedals, if you like building models, you'll probably enjoy building pedals. It's quite fun. Anyway, Pedal Parts and Kits is the website. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but if you buy something there, maybe you mention that Tony sent you. I'd love to try out some other stuff from them eventually and see how that goes. Just take it from there. So that's it. Just a little tip for today. And it's funny, once you start building them, you can actually see how fast you can actually put these together. The last one I built was the one I got from Stumac, which was a clone, the Ghost Drive. I think I showed it to you already. And I built that probably within an hour and a half. And my son helped me do it too. And he never touched the soldering iron. So I just gave him a little guide as to what to do. And he had fun. He said he wanted to do more. And he doesn't even really play music or anything. So it's cool. J. Paul says that Mastodon Mammoth kit looks sweet. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there, man. Take a look. They even have wah kits as well. You can modify your wahs if you already have a wah, maybe, you know. And sometimes if you have a wah that doesn't work and you have the enclosure, don't throw that away or don't throw that in the garbage, because you can easily buy the components that goes in there and make it new again. Shane says Tony sent me. Hey Shane, what's up, man? Hope everything's good with you. Dan says new guitar day. Hey Tony, I was just gifted a Les Paul from Cushman. Really? Very cool. That's a nice gift. I didn't get a gift. Is mine on the way, Cushman? Probably not. Very cool. So give us a little detail on that, Dan. How did that come about? David says assembly and design a very different 2.2 or 2.4 microfarad capacitor. You can get away with 20% tolerance, or do you need 5%? How does it sound? Is it reputable? Can it get complicated? What are we talking about, David? I'm not sure what the question was. I just jumped in and saw all of that information. Clarify a little bit more and I can answer your question. Mark's Gas Station says Brian Wampler had a couple of PDF books on pedal mods and building. He might still have some of those floating around on the internet. And Guitarologist says, anyone here on the I almost said Anglo Man, Analog Man list? I have about 3 years to go. Dude, I don't know how they get away with this. You must have like extreme patience to be on a waiting list for like 3 years. I don't know, man. I couldn't do it. There's a couple of things I don't have patience for. Waiting for food is one of them. And waiting for gear. I'm almost at my wit's end already. I actually, on a side note, I ended up bringing one of my guitars to get taken care of. A guitar technician. You know, I didn't have the time to do it myself, so I brought it in. Big mistake. Why big mistake? Because after I brought it in, the guy tells me, oh, by the way, you're not going to get the guitar back before at least a month. A month? What the heck? If he would have told me that ahead of time, I would not even have gone, to be honest. I mean, I don't want to wait a month for anything. But I figured, you know what? It's a guitar that, you know, kind of needed a little TLC. I didn't have time to do it. I don't play it every single day. I have other guitars to keep me busy with. Okay, what the heck? But I mean, is this a regular thing? I don't know if you guys share the same experience as what I'm seeing here, but is it normal that you would have to wait a month to get a guitar taken care of? I don't know. I'm being honest here, guys. I don't really know what the status quo is today because I normally don't bring a guitar in. I usually just work on all of my guitars, and I think I'm just going to continue to do that. I should have just done that. I could have fixed it 5 times in the amount of time that I've been waiting already. I just hope that once I get it back, it'll be good, you know. Hopefully I won't be disappointed, because A, it's not inexpensive, B, it takes a long time, and C, hopefully you get it back the way you want. So let me know if you guys are bringing your guitars in. What's the average turnaround time? It doesn't seem right, man. I don't know. But yeah, 3 years for a pedal? No. That's a hard pass for me, man. Hard pass. I mean, if they have this kind of volume that it takes them 3 years to get your order out, there's something wrong. I think they're just artificially stimulating demand, because you can easily get more people in to build these things, get them out quickly. Doesn't make sense, you know? Yeah, about a week for a guitar setup, if it's nothing crazy. It's about right. 2 weeks max. A month? No, man. So anyways, I'm going to give the gentleman the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to let him do what he needs to do. If the guitar doesn't really knock my socks off when I get it back, I'm unfortunately going to scratch him off the list. And, you know, there's other people that are available to do work. But yeah. So Shane says, Gibson made me wait 3 weeks to do a warranty repair, and when I got it back, it was still broken. Oh, that seems like an interesting story, Shane. What did you get? What did you send in to get fixed? I mean, 3 weeks for sending a guitar back to like a company like Gibson or Fender seems about right. I mean, just transit time, and I'm sure they don't have, you know, they're not fixing just a handful of guitars. They probably have hundreds of guitars waiting to get fixed for one reason or another. So 3 weeks seems reasonable, but the fact that you got it back and it was still broken, that doesn't seem right. Rob says about a week from his tech. Presley says, yes, most reputable guitar repair shops probably has 2 to 3 week wait or more depending on the work needed. I mean, okay, but even 3 weeks, that's okay. 3 weeks, I mean, that's a little bit stretching it. But after 3 weeks, I start losing my patience. So yeah, I brought it in, I believe it was the 18th of October. So technically today is more than a month. And I had called him last week and he said, you know, probably at least another week. So I'm hoping by this week, maybe the end of the week, I'll probably be able to get it back. I don't know. Keep your fingers crossed. We'll see. If it's a custom job, like, you know, Shane saying his custom guitar took 8 months, but that's a custom guitar. I understand that. Like, I'm not asking for something that's not realistic. I don't think. Hotcakes Man is here. Good morning, dude. Nice to see you. Steve says lack of parts for the pedals make wait times longer. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm talking guitar repair now. There is some kind of a strike going on right now here with the postal workers. So obviously, if you're trying to repair guitars, and perhaps you have to order specific parts that come by mail, that could be an issue. But when I started the process, there was no postal strike. So I don't think that was really a factor. He's probably just pretty busy. We have 64 people in the house, which is fantastic. 36 thumbs up. Please give me a thumbs up, guys. It's always appreciated. You're helping the channel and encouraging me. D-Max says his local shop usually takes a couple days to a couple weeks. I mean, it depends what it is, right? If you're just doing a setup, they can probably turn that around in, yeah, a couple of days, I would say, if it's nothing that's too complicated. So Shane says, when the guitar came in, the next pickup was shorting out. The dealer sent it to Gibson, Japan, and when it came back, the bridge pickup was shorting out. Okay, so it's a wiring issue. Still not fun when you get a good, you're buying a guitar, you expect it to work right out of the box. I would say that could probably be an easy repair if you're comfortable with electronics, the basics of electronics. You maybe don't need to send it back to the manufacturer. But yeah, a new guitar, let him do it. You shouldn't have to do it. That's the whole point, right? If you're buying something from a company like Gibson, why should you have to do it? Mark's Gas Station says, I believe Analog Mike does all the work himself. I think that's why the waiting list is so long. Yeah, I know, but even at that, what's the big deal? Does he have to do all the work himself? It's copy paste, right? A circuit is a circuit. Whether he does it or someone else does it, if they're qualified to do the work, it wouldn't make a difference unless he just, he doesn't want to pay somebody to do the work, I guess. Boomerang is asking, what did you send for repair? Boomerang, just one of my guitars. I usually repair my own stuff. I usually do my own setup work and tweaks on my guitars. But I had a guitar lying around and I didn't have time, and I wanted it, I was, intending to do some work on it for a while, and I didn't have time to do it. So I decided, what the heck, I'm going to spoil myself, bring it to somebody to get it done, thinking it would be quick and would save time. But here we are a month later and I still didn't get it back, and I'm getting impatient. It's just a question of patience, that's all. I got to work on being a little bit more zen with my stuff. Paul says, Tony, pedal weight is so the company does not have to expand 80% plus of the time. For orders of other pedals, the KOT is made in down/slow days only. I see. Well, but I understand all of that part, Paul. I understand. But at the same time, it seems like the King of Tone is a very popular pedal. And if they have orders, that'll keep you waiting for 3 years, why wouldn't they want to expand and sell more? Cool Tune says, sounds like shenanigans. Me too. I agree with Cool Tunes. I just think it's like artificially inflating the hoopla around the pedal. I'm sure if you can get the King of Tone off of Amazon whenever you want it, it would be less of a big deal. Keeps us talking about it, so I guess it's like free marketing. Goats on the Roof is here. Hey, how's it going? From Athens, Georgia. Shane says, often boutique builders build guitars in batches. If you are in time, you can get a guitar sooner. But if you have to wait for the next batch, it does take time. Yeah, I get all of that. I get it. All right, let's see. A few new names here today, which is great. Mullet Train says, kind of suggests that the builder didn't test it or didn't care if it works. Sucks. And Dan says, Cushman, tell everyone about the Les Paul you gave to me. Details. Yeah, please do, man. Jamal is here. Good morning, everyone. Lurking here, but I got my grandson over, so I'll be in and out. Hey, no problem. That's fantastic. Take care of the little guy. Ain't nobody got time for that, says Hot Cakes Man. And Mullet Train says you should ask for it back and then cancel. Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, if I call him this week and he hasn't already started, I'm gonna tell him, yeah, forget the whole thing. Just give me my deposit back. You know, the worst part is I had to leave a deposit, you know. But anyway. So Eddie says, there's a small one-man shop here in town that has a Plek. His turnaround is 8 to 10 months. I've never been there. Holy mackerel. 10 months. He must be running that thing 24/7. I guess there's quite a demand. Maybe I should buy a Plek machine. I think the Plek machines are what, like 100K? Or at least they were 100K back in the day. I don't know if they went down in price. That's crazy, dude. How much do they charge for a Plek these days? Do you know how much they charge? I've never had a guitar Pleked after the fact. I've purchased a guitar that was already Pleked. One of my Gibsons was Pleked. They were, you know, Gibson was doing the whole Plekking thing. I don't know if they're still doing it now. So that guitar was Pleked, but I never brought any of my guitars to get Pleked after the fact. I think it's pretty expensive. Again, I'm out of whack with the prices because I'm not up to speed on all that stuff. So you guys let me know what the going rate is here. I think Presley could probably fill us in on that. I think he's the resident expert on getting guitars Pleked. Guitarologist says about 300-ish for a Plek, so that's not cheap, man. Wow. So what's the I wonder how much does a Plek machine cost? I gotta look that up. I'm curious. Where do you buy a Plek machine anyways? Let's see if I can get that information, how much it actually would cost to get one of those things. Yeah, I think they're still going for around between 100 and 150,000 US. So if you're looking at let me just see here. If you're looking at about $300, excuse me, a Plek, you would have to do at least 500 Pleks to pay off the machine. 500 is not a low number, but it seems doable. And after that, it's all gravy, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure most of the Plek machines come from Germany. All the good stuff comes from either Germany or Italy. Europe in general. France even sometimes. Vinny says, I think the lower model is around 100K. Still 100K is a lot. But you know, if you go into it with 2 or 3 people, you know, bring down the cost of it to, you know, under 50 G's, share the resource, so to speak, pay it off quicker, and then the rest is gravy. Sweetwater in US charges $250 to $280 for a Plek. Yeah, expensive, man. But I'm wondering, like, once a guitar is Pleked, and for those of you who don't know what the hell we're talking about, excuse me, I should at least explain. Plekking is basically, it's a machine that is calibrated to basically calculate the distance between, or the height of your frets, so that when you put it in the machine, there's like a micro caliper or something in there that basically goes over each and every fret, calculates the height of the frets, and I guess does some kind of mathematical algorithm to, I guess, average things out and figure exactly how much the machine needs to take off the top of each fret so that the fret leveling is perfect. And at the end of that, you should have a perfectly level fret job. You know, so yes, you can still do it by hand. It takes more skill. Basically, the skill is in the hand of the person doing the work at that point. But if you put it into the machine, it's all robotics. It's basically mathematically calculated, and there's, very precise measurement tools and algorithms that go to work to make sure your guitar is set up properly. Now, the only thing is, once a guitar has been plecked and you put down $300, and mind you, if you think about the average cost of a fret level, I mean, it's not inexpensive either. For sure, a fret level is going to cost you probably at least $150, I think. So it's like maybe double the cost, but I guess it'll be more precise. But my question is, if you pleck your guitar, once it's plecked, that doesn't mean it's the end of the game. You probably will still need to do stuff to it eventually again. Now, how often? That depends on how much you play. But, if you haven't tried it, it's fun to try. I mean, the Les Paul that I have that's plecked feels good. But if you ask me, like, okay, which one of these guitars has been plecked, I wouldn't be able to tell you, really. If the other guitars are set up properly, they're just as good, in my opinion. I don't think it stands out that blatantly that you actually pick up the guitar and you say, whoa, this guitar's been plecked. I don't think it's that obvious. SB says he trusts humans more than machines doing stuff on his guitars. Well, at least if it's not done right and it's a human doing the work, you have somebody to yell at, right? If the machine doesn't do it right and you don't like it, then what are you supposed to do? You gonna yell at the machine? So there's that. Mullet Train says plecking can produce a unique uneven plane of flatness across all of the frets that can make you think the neck is twisted if you are checking neck relief using both E strings. Really? Interesting. It says a plecked guitar can have like no relief on the high E and lots of relief on the low E. Now, is that something you've experienced personally, Mullet Train? I think most people just take plecking at face value and just assume that the technology is like the most accurate you can get. But is it always good? I don't know. This is the first time I hear something like your comment. So interesting. Rob F says there's a plecking business in Huntington Beach, California called 13th Street Guitars. And Mullet Train says, I have a Yamaha Revstar that I'm sure was treated with a robotic fret leveling similar to a Plek. And as I described, it appears to have less relief on the high E side. Although the wood of the neck is totally straight. But could that just have been like, error? Maybe, does that mean that all the machines do that? Or maybe you just got unlucky and it wasn't done properly? MFN has a question for me. He says, Tony, the low E of my Les Paul Studio nut is a bit sharp. I'm thinking about self-plecking it with a file. Grit recommendations. So let me get this straight. The low end of my Les Paul Studio nut is a bit sharp. The low end. So you're talking about the low E. Okay. All right. So here's what I would suggest, MFN. If it's sharp, most probably, as you say, the slot of your low E string is probably too high. You can see just by tapping it down. Like if you hold your string down at about the 3rd fret and just tap over the 1st fret, you should have like really a sheet of paper's thickness of space between the the fret in the bottom of your string. If it's more than that, then most likely that's the reason. It's probably just a little too high. So taking that down, filing that down, if you have the proper files, is pretty easy. Just don't go too far, because if you go too far, you're kind of out of luck. Then you're gonna have to do the baking soda and crazy glue trick, which I don't want to necessarily get into. But just take it slow and take it down to where you just have just a little bit of space between the bottom of that string and your fret, and you should be good to go. And probably your issue with the sharpness in the note will go away. Let me know if that makes sense to you. The other thing I could recommend, MFN, and this goes for everyone here, the other thing I could recommend, guys, is a tool by Music City. And I did a video on this. I'll post it at some point. It's a pretty quick video, down and dirty. But if you're doing any type of work to your nut slots, invest in this. This is something I can promote. I think I really like this thing. It's called the nut slot gauge. It's you can get this off of Music City. Music City Bridge makes this. Very simple tool. It looks like a ruler, but there's more to it than meets the eye. Unfortunately, you don't really see it, but each edge of this ruler has a very, very small piece of material taken off of it. So it's basically straight, like perfectly straight on this side. It has a, I think it's a 0.005 dip here, 0.003 dip here, and a 0.008 dip here. And the reason for that is that you can take the tool and you can take off your string, slide it in the slot, okay, and then slide it down. And if you hear a little click when you slide it this way, it means that's the space, or the minimum space you have between the nut slot and the top of your fret. So you can get it from perfectly straight all the way to about 0.008 of a gap, depending on how you like things. And it's a great tool because you don't have to rely on your eyes. And sometimes it's very hard to see what's going on at that, you know, when you're into that type of accuracy. So the tool costs about, I don't know, 25 bucks, 30 bucks. I think this is a great investment. So I've started using this when I do my setups, and I love it. Let me see if there's any other questions. Mullet Train says, I've seen a video of describing the Plek system, that it relies on a profile file that is intentionally makes certain parts of the fretboard have higher or lower action, like the frets will progressively get lower towards the bridge and towards the low E side. I couldn't argue with any of your comments. I don't really know, to be honest. I don't know the details of it. But Presley says you can definitely get a bad Plek if the person operating it doesn't get the settings correct. So there is a certain degree of human intervention. So whenever there's a human involved, there could be mistakes as well. So yeah, that's interesting. I should do a little bit more research on that. So Cushman says, Tony, I gave Dan Gorman a nice Epiphone. I put all Gibson electronics and pickups in it. Has a 500T in the bridge. Sweet playing sounding guitar. And so Cushman, what was the reason for this gift? Was it just out of the goodness of your heart? Do you and Dan go way back? Did you owe him some money? Well, what's the story there? What's the backstory on this guitar? Acid Priest TV says, it's so that people can churn out guitars without the skills to do it by hand, mass production, that's all. I think that has a lot to do with it. You know, just like they're using CNC machines all the time today, it's like, you know, why would you want to carve a guitar by hand and take like 10 times or more the time that it takes to do that with a CNC machine? And, you know, a CNC machine will get it right perfectly almost every time. But I do get that some people feel like it takes the heart and soul out of the instrument. You know, it takes the uniqueness out of the instrument. It used to be that, you know, in the old days when you would go and buy a guitar, they would all feel different, because the reason for that is because they were all made by hand. So it was very difficult to get two identical guitars, but that was part of the fun. When you would, you know, if you're shopping for a vintage guitar and you're like, oh yeah, this is a good one, you know, compared to the last one you tried, and you're like, oh yeah, this one feels great. Why? Because you know, the way it's been put together, the little nuances of how that guitar works, because of all the little parts and how, you know, every little aspect of putting together that guitar made it unique, and it speaks to you. Today it's like you know, you pick a guitar off of the shelf, off of the, you know, you go to any store and you buy an Epiphone like this one, for example, they're gonna pretty much all feel the same, except for how it's set up. So nowadays, when you go to a store, you know, if a guitar doesn't feel right to you right off the bat, it's mostly because of the way it's set up, more than anything. DMAX says, I had a bad QC experience with the new Fender Ultra Telecaster. Saw one in a store yesterday, but when I picked it up, the volume control was stripped and the cap on the pickup switch was missing. I stopped there. Okay, now let me comment on that, because I think, obviously, if you're picking up a guitar in the store, a lot of these guitars do get abused. A lot of people, you know, will go in there and take their frustrations out on a guitar, especially if people at the shop don't really mind people taking the guitar off the wall and playing it. You know, some people will say like, oh yeah, you know, I need a pickup switch. You know, the little plastic piece that's on the pickup switch, you know. I can go out and buy one for $5, or I can just pull one off a guitar while I'm playing it. Nobody will notice. They'll do it. It's crazy what people will do. I don't recommend doing that. You know, or they're playing and they're going to be pushing, you know, being excessively aggressive with the knobs on the guitar and strip it. Is it, you know, the store's fault? I would say it's their fault because maybe they didn't notice or fix it. I would say at least they would have to fix it. But I'm sure if you were interested in buying that guitar and you brought it up to them, they would fix it for you, no charge, you know, before you walk out of the store with it. It's just a shame that people do this. So Cushman says, Tony, I know Dan for 40 plus years. He needed to pick me up. Well, that's good karma, dude. Good on you. I hope, you know, I hope more people do stuff like that. That's great, dude. And I'm sure you made Dan a happy camper. So great. Kudos on you for doing something like that. Fantastic. You've definitely gained some karma points there. Vox says, what's the best color for a Telecaster and why is it paisley? Which Telecaster are you talking about that's paisley? What's the best color for a Telecaster? I mean, it all depends on what you prefer. You know, I have a couple of Telecasters. The ones I have a white one, more cream, I would say. A cream one. I have a red one. I have a candy apple red one. I have a butterscotch one. Actually, two butterscotch. I have a bluish one that has like a transparent color to it. I have a sunburst one. I don't have a paisley one, at least not yet, but I do like the paisley color. What's the best color? I mean, a lot of people love the butterscotch Telecasters because they go back to, the early Keith Richards type thing, and the vintage ones were nice with that Telecaster. I like the red double bound one that I made. There's a special place in my heart for double bound candy apple red Telecasters, but I did see a really nice baby blue Telecaster recently that was that looked like a custom shop. It really looked nice. A very striking color that I don't see that often. Oh, and I also have a purple one. I almost forgot. I do also have a purple Telecaster. That's when I think it's on my stand right there. Yeah, the one at the end over there. You can see it. That guy. Oops. There. That's the whole Danish peat purple Telecaster frenzy that happened a little bit, a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I don't know, time flies, I can't remember. But I thought it was cool, so I made myself one. Steve Rezer says, Tony, back in the day, maybe the guy that made the neck had hands about the same as you, so the neck felt great. Yeah, that's it, That's what I mean. It's like that was the cool thing about shopping for these vintage guitars, that you stumble on a guitar that has it speaks to you. It's because it's a little different. Not everybody likes the same stuff, Just like food, Some people like ketchup on their fries, some people like mayo on their fries. It all depends what you're into. But that's the fun part about shopping for these guitars that were older guitars. You had that element of you didn't know what you were going to get till you tried it. Where today it's a little less so. Hey guys, I just want to remind you, thumbs up if you can. That would be great. We're going to keep it going. I feel energetic today. Do you guys want me to keep on going, or are you getting tired? Sometimes people will have other things to do and they want to get going with their day, and it's okay if you guys don't, have time to stick around. But there are some people that are trickling in, tail end of this show, so I'm going to keep it going for a little longer. What the heck? Shane says, my father had 2 Telecasters, 3-tone, sunburst, and butterscotch. Those were the initial popular colors back in the day, I think. Nowadays, you can get pretty much any color you want. I had almost like a craving for a gold Telecaster, Just like you get like gold top Les Paul guitars. I thought it would be cool to maybe make a gold Telecaster, but I never got around to it. You don't see that too often. All right. Most of you want me to keep going, so I'll do it. What the heck? Shane says, what about the survey? Yeah, we could talk about the survey. I usually save the survey for the end, but we're going to be maybe at the midpoint in the show today. So let's do it for the people that want to leave, have other things to do. So the survey was pretty basic today. And you guys, I hope you guys know where it is by now. For the newcomers here, I'll just mention it again. So the survey is on the community tab of the Addicted to Gear channel on YouTube. And I usually put a survey every week. So let's, just keep things spicy. And I usually ask some interesting questions. Today was pretty straightforward. It was a kind of a 2-choice question. And it goes back to the band ACDC. So if you guys are old timers like me, and you know the history of ACDC, then you'll know that the singers in the band were not consistent. The original singer Bon Scott died prematurely due to, rock and roll, basically the rock and roll lifestyle. And Brian Johnson came in after the fact. And I think this is a question that's been asked before. It's not a new question, but basically, in your opinion, I'm asking which singer did it best, or do you prefer? Was it Bon Scott, the original, or Brian Johnson, the person that stepped in afterwards? And the last choice is who? If you're a you're a young person, you might not even be into ACDC or know who ACDC is nowadays. They're considered classic rock. They might not even realize that there was a singer before Brian Johnson. But so we got 119 votes. And I'm going to say that I think I'm not surprised by the results of the poll, because 60% of you said Bon Scott. 60%. Only 30% of you said Brian Johnson. That's quite a margin. And 10% said who? So I have to agree. Although I do like Brian Johnson, I think he's a really cool dude. He seems very down to earth, and he is the modern voice of ACDC. So anything that's, the more recent stuff, you've probably become quite accustomed to his raspy voice and his falsetto that he uses to sing the songs. And I think he does a great job. I'm not taking anything away from Brian, but I think Bon Scott had the element of the raw power in the singing. He wasn't faking it. He was definitely living rock and roll lifestyle 100%, maybe even 110%. Unfortunately, that's why he passed away prematurely. So I'm not surprised by the comments, but there's a couple of comments in the poll I like to read. So our own Shane here says, you gotta love being 14 years old and hearing Scott singing songs like Big Balls and Squealer. TNT is another one. He had that mischievous voice. He had that voice that you loved, but at the same time, it was trouble. That's how I think of it, when I hear the early ACDC. Vinny's World says, I didn't grow up listening to these guys, and so when I eventually heard them on classic rock radio, I had no idea they were two singers. Obviously, as I grew up and started watching documentaries on Much Music or MTV, I came to know more about them, but as an outsider, these sound really similar to me. It's funny you say that, because if you listen to them back to back, similar but still quite different. But he says, which I think is a blessing to the band given the circumstances. Not many bands are fortunate enough to be able to find a replacement vocalist that can retain the essence of the band. And that's a good point. First of all, I think you're extremely lucky if you find a good singer to begin with. And being lucky enough to find two good singers, that's definitely like... the sun, the stars, and the moon are aligned, and you definitely got lucky. And I'm happy that they did get lucky, because they lasted so long. And as an outsider, I gotta say, when I was in high school, I wasn't really into ACDC. I didn't really like ACDC all that much. I only got to sort of appreciate them later in life, and I started listening to them, and I'm like, yeah, man, this is good music. It's straight ahead rock and roll. And you can't fault it. There's nothing fake in it. It's like, this is what you get. This is what we are. They haven't really changed the recipe all that much until I think the Who Made Who album. There it got a little bit odd, but after that I think they really went back to their roots and was all good, man. Someone else said, when I heard Back in Black for the first time in 1980, around 1980. I thought I was listening to the new Nazareth song. Pretty seamless transition. Bon Scott will always be the guy, but Brian respectfully got it done. Love them both. Yeah, I love them both too. I love them both for slightly different reasons, but I think they were both excellent singers. And someone else says, I love Bon Scott, prefer those albums probably, but Brian's been the guy that stepped up and kept rocking all these years, so I give him the nod. I agree. I agree with all these comments. Now, someone else here said, my knees hurt, said, Bon Scott all day long, but I do not think it's fair to compare them. Brian only replaced Bon because Bon died. I do not think it's a fair comparison. Well, I mean, it's just a question of what you prefer, you know. It's not, I'm not poo-pooing one over the other one. I just feel like they're both great singers. But it's a funny story that there's a lot of funny stories about ACDC, but especially Bon Scott, because he was such a character. And, you know, like I said, he lived the rock and roll lifestyle to the hilt. It's funny, there was one story that it stuck in my mind where they were on tour in the mid-70s, I think it was. The band was on a tight schedule. They're moving from gig to gig. You know, basically they're doing a lot of shows back to back. They were kind of known for doing that back in the day. And one night after a show, Bon Scott met a young woman in the crowd that caught his attention. And I'm sure this happened quite frequently in those days. So in true Bon Scott fashion, he decided to seize the moment. And the two of them basically disappeared for the night without telling anyone. They didn't tell the band. They didn't tell the crew. They just left, you know. So as the hours turned into days, the band was starting to get worried. The management, the band, they're like, what's going on? What happened to him? Where did he end up? Like, it wasn't necessarily entirely out of character for him. So they weren't like, they didn't sound the alarms just yet. But still, you know, they were starting to get worried because it was a couple of days now. He was gone. Eventually, he resurfaced. And, of course, in his own style, completely unapologetic, full of stories about his escapades with this woman, the mystery woman. And apparently they went on some sort of booze-fueled trip and started hopping between bars and parties and just basically living the rock and roll lifestyle, you know, while the rest of the band scrambled to keep the tour on track. So, you know, back in the day, it was all about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So that's, you know, a little story, something that makes me style about them, makes me smile about the, you know, the whole history of rock and roll. Shane says Sammy Hagar can sing Rings Around Roth. How did we end up comparing Sammy Hagar and Roth? Where did this conversation go? Speaking of Sammy Hagar, this is something I read recently, which I wasn't too happy to hear. I don't know if you guys heard about this or not, but apparently Sammy Hagar canned Jason Bonham from the band. Now, I don't know if you guys follow what's been going on with this tour. Sammy Hagar, Satriani, Jason Bonham, who did I miss? Oh yeah, of course, Michael Anthony. They're all in a band together and they're playing Van Halen music from the Sammy Hagar era, mostly, I think. And Jason Bonham was the drummer. And we all know who Jason Bonham is. He's John Bonham's son, right? So he's been playing with them all this time. And suddenly, out of nowhere, from what I understand, he got canned. So Sammy canned him. Now, I don't think that's nice of him. I don't know the whole story. The last I heard is that Bonham had to leave the tour suddenly because his mother got sick. She was some sort of medical emergency. I'm not really sure what it was. And so he left and he had to go. And then they got Kenny Aronoff to replace Jason. Now, I don't know if you guys know drummers all that much. This is more of a guitar, let's say, channel here. But for those of you that are in the music business industry or in the know, Kenny Aronoff is a drummer that's been around for forever. He's known as the Clock because he's such a great drummer. He doesn't deviate. He's got like such great timing. And so he's been the go-to, I would say, session drummer for many, many acts out there. Everybody from Mellencamp, I think, well, we all know that, well, at least I know, he did that great drum fill on Jack and Diane and Hurt So Good. Anyways, he's got that little break in between in that song, and he tells a great story, by the way, on his channel. He does have a YouTube channel, and he tells some stories about how he had to like get that filled like spontaneously, like he's in the studio and they're like, okay, go, you know, like do something, and he came up with this fill off the cuff, and it stayed on the album and became sort of the signature part of that song. But you know, he worked with all kinds of artists, including the Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, Neil Diamond, Eric Clapton, Fogerty. I actually saw him with Fogerty live when I went to see John Fogerty. Great show. Sting, Smashing Pumpkins, Lady Gaga. Anyways, he's probably at least been on 60 Grammy nominated recordings over the years. And he's the go-to guy. So, of course, when Jason wasn't available, they got him. And apparently they're sticking with him. Now, I don't know if it's a thing where, you know, he's American, they're American. Maybe they get along better. Jason Bonham's not American. Does that have anything to do with it? I'm not really sure. But I did read an article recently where Jason sort of is recounting what happened. And he says that Sammy rang him up and he was asking about his mom. And then he said, you know, I'm not going to do much next year, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go with Kenny. Of course, Jason was shocked. Why wouldn't you be? You know, he was with them for at least 10 years. So suddenly being let go like that after 10 years is kind of weird. But he does say that he loves the guy and he doesn't wish Sammy Hagar any ill. He still speaks to him, and he says that he taught him so much about the business, and, you know, but it's strange that he would have done that. So I don't know the whole story. I don't know if Sammy explained any of this, but it's kind of a sad thing. You know, it's almost like you can see how this has become the music business. And it's funny because if you think about it, on the Rolling Stones Top 100, they rated the top 100 drummers, and Kenny Aronoff came out about 60, which is, you know, not that prominent. It's like, you know, midway down. But it's funny that Jason Bonham was not even on the list. And you know who was number one? John Bonham, Jason's dad, number one. That's not surprising, but it must hurt, you know, when your dad's number one on these lists and you don't even make the list. Yeah. Anyways, it's one of those things. All right. Any other questions here? Did I miss any other questions? With all my blah blah going on, if you have a question for me, guys, and I miss it, please post it again. Paul says most guitarists are replaceable these days. You can learn the parts online, note for note. No two singers sound alike. They are born with a different voice. I mean, yes, you could. You can definitely learn how to play a song, but case in point, I mean, I'm looking at what Sammy Hagar's doing with the Van Halen stuff. And although I love Joe Satriani, I think he's, you know, a machine when it comes to playing guitar. He's not doing it for me with the Van Halen stuff, I gotta say. There's something to be said, man. You know, like, yeah, you can probably learn a song note for note, but I guarantee you, it ain't gonna sound like Eddie, and it ain't gonna sound like Stevie, you know. And so it doesn't always mean that it's, you know, an easily repeatable thing, in my opinion. David has an interesting question. He says, David, Addicted to Gear, if you had a time machine, which concerts would you go see? Good question. I mean, for me, I've never seen Led Zeppelin. I'm a huge Jimmy Page fan. I would love to see Led Zeppelin in their prime, you know, in the 70s. That would be my number one show, I think, bar none. I don't think there would be that many other bands I would really want to see besides Led Zeppelin in those days. Easy question for me. And Ian's saying, how's the weather? Why do people care about the weather? Because of my shirt? Is it because of my sweater? Because it's cold? Yeah, it's a little cold. It's a little cold. That's why I'm wearing this. I like to be warm. It's like you know, just above zero here, hovering just above zero. But it's cold if you get the wind in your face. I went for a walk before the show, and it was kind of nippy out there, so that's why I'm wearing this. Yeah, a lot of people would say Jimi Hendrix. To be honest, it'd be cool to see Jimi Hendrix, but he wouldn't be my number one. Boomerang has an interesting question, a technical question at that. Is the best way to mark out the bridge angle on a Gibson scale length style body? Okay, so this is not a beginner question. So I guess you're trying to glue in a neck on a guitar. If I understand your question correctly, Boomerang, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're probably looking at gluing in a neck on a Gibson scale length style body, and you want to make sure that you have the angle correct, right? Is that what I'm understanding? Okay, well, the way Gibson does it is that they have a straight edge ruler that they put on the fretboard that has a certain, it's basically shaped like an L, and they have a certain height at the bridge. So when they put it on the neck, you can clearly see if you're in the ballpark. Now, that height here may vary depending on your style. You can probably get the Gibson specs online somewhere and make yourself a similar straight edge so that you know that you're in the ballpark. Because I know exactly what you mean. You don't necessarily want to be too low. You don't want to be too high. You want to be in the ballpark so that when you have your bridge set up, it's not maxed out all the way up or all the way down. You do have some play in there. Good question. I guess we have a guitar builder in the house. Shane would have liked to see Pink Floyd at Pompeii. Yeah, that would be a definite cool show to see. Although I probably would say that a lot of people probably never saw the show. That's the beauty of Pink Floyd. And maybe some of you might have said, you know, Woodstock, although I know it was a fiasco. I would have liked to maybe go back to Woodstock, but without all of the rain and the mud and all the stuff that went along with it. So if I can like sit there and just watch the show, mind you, there are documentaries on it. So that's the beauty of today. A lot of the stuff is recorded, so you can see it from your own living room. Steve says, a walk? Like outside? Yeah, Steve, from time to time, I do leave the studio. Not often. Not often, but sometimes. Presley says 4-foot angle. You can purchase a digital angle gauge. There you go. I knew somebody had, was smarter than me. So you can buy one. I would have just made one. But I guess you're right. Today you could pretty much buy anything. Dave says, anyone have experience with treble boosts? Dave, I just use a regular EQ pedal if I want to boost the treble. I don't necessarily use any other method, but are you talking about a specific treble boost like directly in a guitar? And Vinny's World says, I actually think there are fanatics that can replicate VH playing, but when it's Satriani, he's conscientious of being authentic while including his own style, which doesn't really work. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it. He has his own style, and like if I look at guys that are amazing guitarists like Steve Vai, for example, Satriani, like Steve Vai is a monster too on guitar, but I don't think he'd be able to play Van Halen stuff. I mean, he could probably play it, but I mean, I don't think he'd be able to play it, if you know what I mean. So Dave's talking about a pedal, so the treble boost in a pedal. Like I said, Dave, I usually just use an EQ pedal for whatever I need. It seems to do the job for me. But J. Paul says, funny you should say this. It was just suggested to me, and it made a huge difference in my sound. I use a treble and clean boost now, set real low on a distorted signal, and it made it creamy as fuck. Oh, okay. Shane says that Shane at In the Blues loves a treble boost in his Tokai. Interesting. Well, I mean, I haven't really played with it. I don't know how much of a difference would it make if you have a dedicated treble boost pedal as opposed to an EQ pedal and just boosting the treble that way. Would it make a difference, Dave? I mean, since you're looking at this, you might know more than me. Dave says, I'm thinking about getting a boring EQ pedal. How many of you use an EQ? Dave, if you don't already have an EQ pedal, dude, it's a must on your board. You gotta have an EQ pedal on your board. How many here don't have an EQ pedal on their board already? Say aye if you don't have an EQ pedal on your board, because you need one, man. If you're playing with a band and you don't have an EQ pedal, you're not going to be able to sculpt the sound in a live situation the way you're going to need to. Maybe if you're playing at home, it's not much of an issue because all you're hearing in the room is yourself. But whenever there's other musicians and you're playing together as a band, EQ is critical. So Dave says, he doesn't have one. Dave, you got to get one, dude. Maybe that's why you're asking about the treble boost, because you don't have an EQ pedal. So David, you guys, man, got to get one. It is boring. There's nothing glamorous about an EQ pedal, but you need one. Trust me on this one, guys. And you don't have to spend a lot of money. You can get a Joyo EQ that mimics the MXR1. You don't need a 48 band EQ pedal. You can get a regular 5 band EQ pedal. It'll do the trick. I'm not shaming Shane, I'm not shaming, but I'm just trying to help you guys. You do need trust me on this. You need an EQ pedal. The MXR 10 band, yeah, J Paul, if you get a 10 band, you're good. But sometimes you don't really need that much sculpting ability. But yeah, I'm not gonna say no to a 10 band. 10 band is fine, 5 band is fine. No EQ, no good. If you can get the Joyo EQ on a Black Friday sale, grab it. Just grab it. That's what I have on my board, guys. I don't have my board out here it's in my carry bag. I can't show it to you. But I've had the Joyo EQ on my board for many, many years, just waiting for it to die so I can get a better one. Hasn't died. Don't really need a better one. It's going to do exactly the same thing. And to be honest, I have a 10 band EQ also, but I don't really need it. Like, I don't want to put it on my board. It takes too much space. The 5 band is enough for now. Dave feels bad now. Don't feel bad, dude. Look, now you have something that you can look for as a Black Friday sale. There you go. It's done. EQ, I mean, look, as an EQ pedal, you can do so much with an EQ pedal, dude. You can definitely tailor it so that you stand out in a mix, in a live scenario, and you don't have to become louder. Because this is what I find a lot of people don't realize when you're in a live situation and you can't hear yourself. And people are like, how can you not hear yourself? Everybody's playing so loud, you got to be able to hear yourself. Believe it or not, when you're playing in a live situation and you're in a certain frequency range and it's time for your solo, for example, if you don't boost it, you're not going to hear yourself. The bass is going to drown you out completely. You're going to have a hard time hearing yourself, no matter how loud you are. I play in a band, and we normally get carried away with the sound levels. And for years, I was just trying to crank it louder, which just snowballs the effect of everybody just getting louder all the time, and you lose control of the sound. So that's not the way of doing it. Then I finally realized that with an EQ pedal, all you need to do, you don't have to raise the sound at all. You just have to find that frequency range between, let's say, the bass player, the other guitarist, where you make yourself a little bit of room and you accentuate those frequencies, and voila, you can hear yourself, no issue, without having to be loud. And if you do want to boost treble, you can do that as well. You can even use it as just a regular boost pedal for your solos and not even have to leave it on all the time. Just hit it when you're playing your solo, and you're going to stand out. It'll be beautiful. I use this a lot also, guys, the EP boost. The EP boost is great because it just basically makes everything sound better, in my opinion. It's a must-have pedal. This is my always-on pedal. It's very simple, but it just makes everything sound bigger and just fatter and great. So if you're looking at something as a Black Friday deal or something like that, and you can get your hands on one of these, highly recommend this guy. If you have a chance, grab one. Ian says you can chug better with an EQ if you scoop it. A lot of people just, unfortunately, they'll buy an amplifier. They might not like the sound 100%. They're going to start swapping speakers and, selling the amp, changing tubes, trying to get that sound, when all you really need to do is just tweak it with an EQ pedal. So Paul says, Tony, when they're talking the classic guys with a treble booster, they're talking a range master, which boosts the upper mids too, like a tube screamer plus EQ pedal. I get it. I know what you're saying. Vinny's World says, is the EP booster like the BBE Sonic Maximizer? Not really. I mean, the EP booster is basically, it's a one-trick pony, really. It's been around for ages, the EP Booster. I don't know if you got, and there's a couple of different companies that will make different versions of it. I don't know how much they go for now. I've had this for years, guys. I don't know how much they cost now. I'm just trying to see. A lot of people don't realize like why you would need an EP booster. And at the beginning, I gotta say, I was in that category as well. I'm like, it doesn't seem to do much. There's only like one knob on it, you know. I didn't know anything about EP boosters. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I want something that I'm gonna have lots of knobs and switches on. So I didn't really get it. But then when I tried it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's gotta stay. It's gotta stay on all the time. And that's what I do. I just keep it on all the time. Exotic Effects makes some really good pedals, and I gotta say that's probably one of the cream of the crop of their pedal line. And as somebody said here, I think Danielle said it, or somebody else, or David said it here. It basically uses the preamp section of the Echo Plex, which was a tape delay unit, and a lot of people would use the tape delay unit back in the day to enhance their tone, but they realized that even without the delay effect, it had an overall tone enhancement effect. So they would sort of like just leave it on. And it basically created a richer, more full-bodied character to the guitar signal. And it added just a little bit of sparkle to it, a little bit of glow, or a little bit more oomph to the sound. And the EP booster can go up to a 20, I think it's a 20 dB boost on the clean. If you wanna really push it, you can definitely push your signal level with this 20 dBs for solos and whatnot. You know, you can just do that and just crank it and turn it on during your solos, or you can leave it on all the time, just subtly changing the characteristics of your sounds. And it also compensates for signal loss if you're using long leads. So it's pretty cool. And there's also one thing that maybe you don't realize. There's also dip switches in here that will allow you to fine-tune the tone of the pedal. You can do a bright boost, you can do bass reduction, or you can do flat EQ. Depends on what you want to do with it. So it's quite good, and it weighs a ton. It's so solid, this pedal. Ian says, preamp pedal, was wondering if I need one. I'd get one. It's an always-on pedal on my board. Eddie says, I believe Eddie Van Halen, Eric Johnson used the Echo Plex in the very same way. A lot of people did back in the day. It was a thing. Take it easy, NFM. Thank you for dropping in. Daniela wants to know if I have any experience with the TC Electronics Combo Deluxe 65 pedal. I hear it has a little more clean headroom than some of the similar pedals. I haven't tried that specific one yet, Danielle. I do like a lot of the TC Electronics stuff, but I haven't tried that one yet, unfortunately. Maybe I'll get around to it at some point. Right now, the only thing I really have on my hit list is the new Behringer, or Behringer. I still don't know what the correct way of pronouncing that company name is. Behringer. They have the pedal they just released or just announced, the Fuzz Bender. It's sort of their take on the Tone Bender pedal, and I want to buy that one. It's I have it in my sights. It's going to be something that I'm going to be buying. I just haven't placed the order yet because I'm just waiting with Black Friday around the corner. I'm hoping to maybe get a little deal, and then I'll buy that pedal. And I'm not a huge fuzz guy. I don't really need a fuzz pedal all that much, but I figured the Behringer is a nice pedal because they finally, well, they're using a metal box, so it's going to be sturdy, and it's a throwback to the Tone Bender. Being that I'm a huge Jimmy Page fan, I'd like to get some Jimmy Page tones out of it if I could, and it's really not that expensive. So that's on in my sights for this. Maybe by the end of the week, I'll place my order. If I see that they're not offering any type of deals for Black Friday, I'll just pull the trigger on it. Just waiting. I'm just waiting. I'm hovering. What else, guys? What else? David Gilmour interview with Rick Beato. You guys saw that? I thought it was kind of meh. I was expecting more. I'm a big David Gilmour fan, but I don't know. The interview, that particular interview, didn't really give me anything I didn't already know. So, kind of disappointed in that one. I was waiting for that for a while. I knew Rick was teasing us when he said, I'm never going to have David Gilmour on the show. And at the end of the day, he did. So, you know, he was just catfishing us. And so I watched it. I don't know if any of you did. There's also another teaser that seems to be on the agenda. Wampler pedals announced. They kind of teased the other day. If you're following them, they said, what a nice pedal board you got there. There was a little meme, a little bird staring at the camera lens saying, that's a nice pedal board you got there. Would be a shame if someone dropped a new pedal on Black Friday that you had to find room for. So they're teasing a new pedal for us. And from what I gather, it's gonna be dropped on Black Friday. So keep your eyes open for that. Always interested in seeing what Wampler have in store for us. They do have amazing pedals. I'm a big Wampler fan. So that's going to be something interesting for sure. And I did also see that Mesa Boogie are releasing a new, re-releasing. They're reselling the Mark IIc. Have you guys seen this? The Mesa Boogie Mark IIc has been around for a long time, and Sweetwater is selling it now. Let me just see what the price is on that. Hold on. I'm just loading it up here, guys. Why is it bringing me to reverb? I don't want to go to reverb. I want to go to, hold on. Sweetwater. Let's try Sweetwater. So they have the Mark IIc that's selling for $3,599. Pretty expensive. And this is just the head, by the way, not even the combo. The combo is $3,899, almost $4,000. Pretty expensive, but some people do love that model. My question to you is, would you spend almost $4,000 on it? You know, as someone who actually owned the Mark III, the Mesa Boogie Mark III, which came out after the Mark IIc, I wouldn't spend that kind of money on it. I know you can still get the, I think you can get the reissue Mark IIIs now. I think you can still get them. But I mean, $4,000 for that amplifier seems a lot. I think they're pumping them out because they, I don't think they're going to have anything new for the short term. So that's kind of their way of enticing us. I was hoping they would come out with something new pre-acquisition, just to see what they would do. But it seems like right now that's all they're offering us. I'm in a holding pattern. Boomerang says the Mark IIcs are the best ones. A lot of people do love the sound of the Mark IIcs. I agree with you. But $4,000 for an amplifier, like maybe just buy a used one. You know, get an older one. You probably won't pay it that much, but seems expensive. But they do have a payment plan. You can buy them. You can pay them off slowly. They're good amplifiers, don't get me wrong, but I don't think I'd spend $4,000 on that today. I think there's a lot more choice out there. Shane had a question. If you had to stick to one pedal company, what would you pick, Tony? That's a good question. I never actually thought of that because I never actually considered having to stick to one. You know, in my entire lifetime as a guitarist, guitar player, I never really thought about having to stick to one brand. You know, I'll admit at the very beginning when I started playing guitar, obviously the Boss pedals were the ones that everybody would gravitate to because they were the easiest to find. And, you know, they were in every store and they all looked the same. And there was something nice about having all the pedals be in the same format. As a matter of fact, I still remember, they probably sell it today still. They had a little plastic carrying case, molded plastic carrying case. I think it was 6 or 8 pedals. I don't really remember, but it was made by Boss, and you could take every single one of the Boss pedals and put it in this carrying case, and you could close it, and everything was hooked up inside. Very neat and tidy. That was kind of one of my early goals, was to get one of these things and just basically fill it up with Boss pedals. And because they're all the same footprint, that was the way to do it. But that never actually happened. And as I started experimenting with effects and all that kind of stuff, that kind of went out the window. So I don't really stick to one at all. I got to say, probably the ones that I have the most of right now are probably TC Electronic, Wampler. I do have a lot of Joyo and NuX and sort of the more affordable pedals because they're easy to get. They're not that expensive. But the ones that are a little bit more expensive, I would say it would be Wampler probably. They're my go-to right now. Like, not my go-to, but the ones that I feel are producing really nice quality pedals. And I've never had an issue with them with any kind of post support. I had a really nice pedal from them, and at one point the switch stopped working. I just sent it back to them. They changed the switch and sent it back to me, no problem. So I love being able to have that kind of support. TC Electronic, I've heard stories about people that have issues with those pedals, trying to get support, not as easy. So that's the only reason, like, I kind of give the edge to Wampler for that reason. Patrick says the Boss BCB60. I have it. Yeah, that's what it was called. Yeah. Boomerang says Electro Harmonics. I had one or two. I don't have any right now. I think I sold them. They make good stuff. I'm not saying that the stuff is bad. I don't really have a preference because I feel like in any pedal lineup, any company that's making pedals, they'll have good ones, they'll have bad ones. They're not going to be consistent. I can't say that I love every pedal from Wampler or every pedal from TC Electronic. It wouldn't make sense to say that. You know, there's some that speak to me, there's some that don't, some that seem like lemons, some that really stand out. So you got to pick and choose what you like. Okay, guys, well, listen, I'm going to wrap it up because right now we're almost 2 hours in. Thank you for sticking around all this time, guys. I do appreciate it. I think you guys, I almost forgot. MXR. MXR is also a brand that I've had many MXR pedals over the years. Right now, I don't have any, but I went to having like all the MXR pedals to none. But when I had all the MXR pedals was back in the 80s, and I regret selling some of them. But to be honest, I think right now there's probably better options out there. I mean, they made their mark. They're a pedal brand that I think is always going to be popular. But I don't think they stand out because, people like Randy Rhoads use them, people like Eddie Van Halen use them. A lot of different famous musicians over the years had MXR pedals. That's probably why, they use them right now. But if I had to choose, I probably would say there's not that many MXR pedals in the lineup that speak to me right now. Patrick says, I'm late to the show. You have an aux. Yeah, I do have. You see it here. It's not on right now. But yeah, great little piece of kit. If you're doing anything at home and you're recording, you need an aux. Love the Hall of Fame and the Flashback. Yeah, I have both of those pedals. Hall of Fame, Flashback. I do love the tone print options on all of the TC Electronic stuff. That's one of the things I really think they nailed, and everybody should be doing that. I also have the Corona Chorus, which is decent as well. I like the option of having more than one sound in a pedal, and I think that's something that TC Electronic does quite well. So guys, let's wrap it up. Unless there's something else you guys want to highlight, and as far as maybe Black Friday deals or stuff like that. Hey, there's one other thing I'm gonna share with you before you go. If you're looking for a guitar strap, I picked this up. This is from a company called Amumu. It's a weird name, I know, but it's a pretty cool thing. They say, we design, you rock. Interesting. Anyway, in case you guys are looking for something to pick up, maybe this could be a last minute Black Friday deal for you guys. They do have some really cool guitar straps. And I bought this. I'll share with you guys. So once again, the company is called Amumu. I know, weird name, but check this out. This is a guitar strap that has a really cool design to it. You can get this from various sellers. Maybe they're not the only ones that sell this, but it's a very wide strap. You can see how wide it is. This is probably at least 4 inches maybe. And it's got all these little neoprene bumps on it. So it basically distributes the weight of the guitar and lets it breathe, and you don't feel as much stress on your shoulder or neck. They have thinner ones as well. Depends on what you like. So I have a couple of different sizes. But I really think these are really cool, well-made straps that really do work. They do alleviate a lot of the pressure that I feel when I play guitar. If you're standing for a long time. So if you want to try it out, the company's called Amumu. I'll just show you the little sticker so you remember. Check them out. They design, you rock, apparently. And they'll even throw in a little packet of picks, and you even have some additional strap locks in there to keep everything safe, and your guitar won't end up falling on the floor. So that's it, guys. Any other questions last minute? Marcel says, will it not saw into the neck? Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, look, the way they're made, they do have like a very nice trim piece here on the side. So even if you put it on your skin, it doesn't feel rough or anything. It doesn't feel like, it's actually less aggressive than a leather strap, in my opinion. So the answer to that would be no, I don't think so. It feels comfy. It's like a gravity strap. Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, I love this. I didn't talk much about this guitar today. I got this specifically because of the P90s and the color. I do like the color. A little out of tune, guys, sorry. But yeah, these are great guitars. They're not expensive. This is the Epiphone version. I did change the little tuners. I didn't like the white oval ones. To be honest, I changed them to the tulip style just because these tulips fit directly into the existing holes. I didn't have to drill new holes because I don't really like drilling new holes. But I think if I had a choice, I probably would prefer the chrome ones as opposed to these. Keep them on for now, but I have a feeling if I end up keeping this guitar, I will probably end up switching them over to the chrome versions. I just think they feel better. They look better to me anyways. Okay, guys, thank you for tuning in. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. There are going to be some new videos that I'm going to drop on my channel probably tomorrow. So keep an eye out for those. Please give me your comments on those videos as well. And, you know, swing by, take a look. It's always nice to hear some comments from the guys that drop in on the live Sunday shows whenever I do a product review. It's always great to see you guys. And we'll be back next Sunday as well with more stuff to talk about. No surprise there. So if you have any options of, if you have any questions that we didn't get to today, or maybe you missed the show completely and you're only catching the rerun, don't worry, because I still look at the comments. You can definitely go in, leave your comments, and I'll try and answer them, even if it's on the rerun. And if you have any cool deals for Black Friday, please share. I'm always looking for deals. And if you want me to maybe check out some other gear that I haven't already done so, let me know. I'm always interested. I'm always looking for new stuff, guys. That's it. Go and play your guitar. Have a great week and see you guys next Sunday. Same place, same time. See you then.